Morning. We're having a girls' morning. We've got Kat and Paula here. Kat is an integration coach as well as a facilitator, and we've got Paula, who is a member of the Plant Medicine Path and has just come off of her first ayahuasca experience. This is the second round of integration talks that we're having with Kat. Mark is usually here, but he's out today. So I get to do this.
Yay.
So I appreciate you both coming on, and I'm just going to let you take over and see how it goes. Thank you both so much for doing this.
Thank you, Michelle and Mark.
Many thanks, and thank you to the Plant Path and Mark and Michelle's mission for being so focused on education and integration. This is such an important and amazing part of the process. It's how we turn our experiences into a new life. It should be life-changing, and it can be if we let it. And even the experiences that may or may not seem meaningful or impactful can become so. So in this session, which is session 2 out of 3 sessions, we're going to be doing some live coaching. Thank you so much, Ms. Paula, for being so bold to come on live and do some live coaching. Now, coaching and integration coaching is really a long-term experience, and integration is forever. So it's fascinating. We're going to be able to see just a few ways that integration works, and we're going to be using your exciting example while we're talking about the integration process. So it's a little education, a little experiential learning. How's that for you?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So first of all, integration coaching, we talked about previously, like what's the point? Why bother? Why do we need this? Why isn't it traditional? And why do we need it now? And who needs it? The answer is everybody, right? Pop quiz question. See, all of the above. So integration is not just about taking a hard experience and turning it into something better when you're struggling. It's about taking an amazing experience or taking what feels like a non-experience and turning it into something meaningful. So revelations can come from any type of experience, and we can integrate everything from a trauma to a divorce to a new career to a psychedelic experience. The idea is we're going to take an emotionally charged experience or an impactful or significant life change and turn it into something really cool. So sometimes these changes are really hard. Like, who likes a divorce? Nobody, right? But we can actually turn it into something amazing and empowering. So our goal with psychedelics, because we're in Plant Path, is very exciting. We get to focus on the psychedelics specifically. And like we talked about in the first session, psychedelics are unique in that one can be very skilled at psychology and transformation and not be really cognizant of how psychedelics specifically operate. And one can be really adept at psychedelics and be a phenomenal practitioner, be an amazing healer, and not really understand how integration is best done. So it's important to find someone who can bring those together, right? And there are a lot of different types of coaches out there. Find someone that you resonate with, but do find someone, right? Or find a program that has built-in integration, or go work with the shaman that really inspires you, or the healer, practitioner, whatever, and then choose an integration coach. No matter what your experience is, that's how you can turn it into something awesome. So revelations come in 2 or 3 ways, right? One is in the middle of the experience. Holy shit, I just realized it's bad language, isn't it, Paula? I just realized something, and this is going to change my life forever, but like, I don't know how to deal with it, or I know exactly what to do, whatever. Sometimes revelations come after. This can happen organically, or this can happen in an induced, like, space created way. So in some cases, 3 months later, you'll be in the shower and be like, oh my God, I totally get it. I finally understand what that meant, and like, I can change. Or, and Paula, for you, since it's your first experience, that can and probably will happen for you, especially when the mind is wandering, especially in the shower. We always have great ideas in the shower or driving, right? And also with coaching, the idea is to create space for revelations that are constructive, right? So we can have a deep revelation that nobody loves me. That's terrible and not supportive, right? This is what we want to avoid. We can turn that experience into something beautiful, like, okay, wow, the revelation really means that I need to love me first before anyone else can. Right? I need to work on me. So we're going to turn that into something empowering. The good news is when it's a really positive experience, it's usually done for us, right? Sometimes not so much though, and we can get what I call ceremony PTSD. Sometimes we have traumatic or bad trips, right? But we can always turn that into something beautiful and empowering. So the unique joy, and this is where I'm going to start asking questions, so get ready, Paula. The unique joy of psychedelics is that we have an added dimension, or visiogenic, which is really what ayahuasca is. We have an added dimension. So beyond the physical experience, beyond the mental experience, beyond the emotional experience, we want to actualize also the potential for a visual and visionary experience, right? So visionary experiences are like dreams. Sometimes they seem very literal, but they should always be there should always be space made for interpreting them, right? This is why it helps to have someone guiding you who understands the visionary process specifically, because a lot of times, especially with ayahuasca, we will hear messages or get visions that really need to be translated, that are pretty consistent messages. Actually, ayahuasca says a few things in different ways many times, and we want to make sure that those messages are empowering and not limiting, right? And sometimes we'll receive a message like, you should be an ayahuasca shaman. Well, ayahuasca is a vine. It seeks to creep, and it will creep. And that's what it does. It spreads. Great. That doesn't mean get up and go serve ceremony tomorrow. That means educate yourself. That means heal yourself, right? This message must mean something in your life and contribute to the general goodness of yourself and others, not then become a hazard, So for yourself and others. So we want to make sure that those visions are interpreted. Paula, did you have visionary experiences?
Definitely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Love it. Would you tell us, please, and share with the class, what is something that really stood out for you in that process?
So mine was 2 nights with ayahuasca. So do you want me to discuss the first night in the visions?
Well, it's
Or
often a
previous?
flow, and I know that sometimes, I know for sure that we can spend like 10 hours talking about visions, but we have a
Right.
little
'Cause
time.
I
So,
mean, I had visions before
right.
ayahuasca, the week before. I had during, and then I've had them after. So
I love that. Let's talk about something that maybe stands out that connects them in a theme. That would be cool.
okay. So I had a lot of childhood trauma. And of
Right.
course, I had expectations, of course, and fear going in. So I was really thinking during my pre-integration that I was going to go back and have these visions of trauma and past trauma. And visions started for me before I even got to my ayahuasca of fun times before pre-trauma. So it went back to like before I was like 9 years old and like really fun times. And that came through in ayahuasca. And I was laughing hysterically. I kept my eyes closed because I didn't want to look up at the trees and have the trees breathing because I had never done a psychedelic. So I
Cool.
was very new to a psychedelic and I picked the grandmother of them. And
That's awesome.
so for me,
I love
those
that.
visions came as really great early childhood memories was how it all started with me. It was, that's really what happened. None of my traumas even came into play. It was like almost an aha moment that this medicine knew what I needed. And I laughed for 8 hours. And it was all visions of everything in my childhood. Like it looped. It looped. My mom was there young, my dad, my brother, it was my friends. We were skiing. We were riding bikes through the woods and laughing and climbing trees and just really beautiful things. It was absolutely beautiful. And it's like when I kind of came out of that, it was like, oh, it's not about me. It's not about what happened to me. Like if I put together all the years of those traumas, that might have been happening 20 minutes, 3 days a week. It wasn't from 8 to 13 I was being abused. Like it brought me back to like, wait a minute, that abuse was happening maybe 20 minutes, 3 days a week. So I came out of it with that knowledge of going, oh my God, I don't have to think about that stuff anymore because all the fun stuff that happened in between, I can kind of retrain myself to stop thinking of all these traumas and look at all the happy times I had because it was just such, little bits of time. But over the years, that became like just thought spiraling all the time. So that's what I think the pre-integration for me and learning how to breathe, the breath work and everything that plant medicine path had to offer with for pre-integration. And now even utilizing UCAT more is for me after post-integration is really important here. It really is because I don't know what to do with all these new feelings of calm and love and everybody's okay. And, where do we go from there? And that's why it's so important to have this tool here. And so I
I'm
just
so
appreciate you
proud of
being
you.
here to guide me.
I am so proud of you for acknowledging that. The biggest question we all ask is, how do I be now? That's what coaching's for.
Yeah.
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing that experience. I know that these topics are really vulnerable and it takes a lot of power and personal power to be that inspiring. So thank you, Ms. Fella.
Thank you,
So
Kat.
there's a lot we can unpack here. One, I love how you called it pre-integration. I love that. Every single one of my clients goes through prep, and we do that on site. We do that before ceremony, and it's so valuable because in an indigenous setting, it's not necessary, but they interpret their dreams. They know how to navigate visionary states. It's part of their cultural construct. And especially, and a lot of our participants come in without ever having taken psychedelics. And sometimes I hear it, oh, should I prepare by taking mushrooms? No, that's not going to help you. It's not the same anyway. And then you'll have weird expectations that aren't right. So I love your willingness to go in open-minded and fresh and baby face. It's perfect. I also love that your experience was about letting go of the attachment to the story and rewriting your story, because this is something that's awesomely available and is often available much more readily to those who do preparation. Because yes, you can also spend the entire time traveling through your traumas. And I don't like that type of work. I feel like if we can do it while having a good time and we develop the same resource, why do it the hard way? You know what I mean? So I love, love, love that was your experience. And I love that it gave you a new perspective. So yes, the trauma happened. So an emotionally charged experience creates meaning for us. We assume that we derive meaning, and especially as we're young, we don't understand that we're creating meaning. So as we get older, we realize we have the opportunity to create meaning, but that asks us to take a lot of responsibility. Like, what do you mean my issues are my own fault? No one likes to hear that, right? But in these experiences, you get relieved of that while also empowered in it. So I love that, especially with trauma when we're young, we make things mean like I'm not safe, love is dangerous, people hurt me, I'm not worth comfort, all kinds of things that just affect every area of our life. I'm not good enough, like any of these things, right? It's a lot. It's a lot, a lot. So
It's like
again,
waging war. We wage wars on ourselves, really.
yes, absolutely. And it all comes from emotionally charged experience. So it doesn't matter if it happened once or if it happened every day, all day. The experience is always going to cause an emotional charge and create a meaning. And thank you for sharing it, because that is intense and it's vulnerable, right? And it's huge. And the fact that you came out of it realizing that you can focus on the good stuff, that's actually a huge revelation itself in life. So we're programmed to wonder about the negative things. When we're living on the Serengeti, we need to know where the lions are and make sure we don't get eaten and not go on that side of the river. You know what I mean? So we're programmed to wonder where the dangers are. But in our life these days now,
Is that fight or flight, Kat? Is that like a fight or flight that as a human we have?
Right. It's related to this like animal like nature, right? But we can overcome this by exactly what you said, focus and conditioning. And it doesn't matter if it's a big revelation or small one, a big change or little ones. It always requires fortitude and focus. You got to want that change and you got to actually apply it. So there are all kinds of ways to apply monumental changes in our life. I'm going to go from zero exercise to working out 60 hours a day. Like, it's not sustainable, right? I believe in simplicity. If we can find small ways to make small adjustments all the time in your life, you know what to do with yourself. You know how to respond to certain situations. You retrain your mind, and ayahuasca increases neuroplasticity. So what that means is you have an opportunity to retrain your actual neurology into new patterns, new ways of thinking and being. And this is a wonderful gift. So we do that with behavioral adjustments and mental habit adjustments. So for example, the story I'm not safe that comes from these types of experiences almost always, right? I'm sure you can say yes or no to that one.
Yes.
Right. So every time we get in a situation that is technically safe, an office party, and we start to have that anxiety and we realize like, oh, I'm not safe, I'm not safe. That's an emotional habit now. You've learned differently. So when a mantra is a great thing to give ourselves, an emotional moment is a great thing to give ourselves. So for example, can you tell me some detail, the first thing that comes to your mind about your visionary experience that gave you that message that you can focus on your youth, that you can focus on the joyful moments?
Right. It was a redirection. It's okay that all this happened. And let me just say this, that when you just said that we can redirect our brains. So I learned really young how to go into fantasy brain, Paula, when stuff was happening from here down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, you know, when you have children and all this other life starts happening, I learned how to kind of hide that in here.
Mm-hmm.
So that first, you know, for that joy to come into that vision for me, it was like, wait a minute, I don't have to always be afraid and protect everybody around me and be the strong girl that I had to be at 8 years old to protect whatever was going on.
Right.
So it just came very naturally. And I have to say again, the breath work that I was taught, to all the integration tools that I was taught, the journaling that I brought with me that I did prior, all of that integration helped me to break through and not get stuck and go from all that happiness. And then within my own mind, it's almost like, because there were little parts of me that wanted to go, well, wait a minute, I want to go back to that trauma and have no resentment, but I automatically had no resentment anymore. It was just lifted, and it is lifted. It's now like, what do we do? What do we do after? And that's where I'm at now, where I just feel so comfortable and happy that everything's okay, and I don't have to be in that fear-based brain anymore. And I'm
Right.
slowly, and it's a long process. It's a lot of drudging inner work and recognizing the way that you've been living.
Let's
You
shortcut.
can redo. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's shortcut that. So I love what you just said. Everything's okay. I don't have to be in fear anymore. Let's change that from what you don't want to what you can have. Okay. Let's just use language to help us. Everything's okay. I can be comfortable. And the word can is powerful because it's a statement of possibility. The word can is the reason affirmations often don't work. So we're going to use, I am beautiful. You're a heifer today. Fuck off. Like, you know, terrible language again. Your mind will reject these statements. But if you say, and there's all kinds of cool psychology behind this, I won't geek out on you with it. But we haven't the time for that. But
I digress very quickly.
Perfect. We'll be perfect together. Use the word can, it creates possibility, and your mind will reject the idea. So I can be comfortable. Instead of I don't have to be in fear anymore, what's a word that you like, that you can use, that you can feel, that you can be now?
I'm safe now. I'm
Safe.
not in fear. Or
I am in what?
I am safe.
Good. So let's do that. So the next time, this is how we start creating behavioral changes. So, and how do I be changes? Because then we get in a situation where it's anxiety inducing because life happens, right? This is how we use these tools to power us. So this is just a really simple trick that I love that's very easy and extremely effective, requires focus and perseverance, right? But you can do it. So we get into a stressful scenario. It happens, right? Maybe it's traffic. Maybe it's an office party. Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's a new first date. You know, there's all kinds of stressful situations in life. And we get there and we start having this experience where it's like, okay, my old pattern says anxiety, but my new pattern says not anxiety. What do I do? How do I be? Right? This is how you choose. You choose the direction your thoughts go in so you can carve that mental habit, that new pattern. So you say to yourself what you just said, I am safe. I can be comfortable. And you close your eyes, take a breath, and remember the feeling, or even remember a visual. I remember I was floating in front of a ball of light and I knew that I was spirit and everything was fine. Okay, I'm going to see that ball of light right now. And in this short breath, I'm going to tell myself, I can be safe, I can be comfortable, and I know that. I know that I know that. We're good, okay? And then you move forward into your situation. So the idea is, when the possibility for the old pattern emerges, an anxiety, stressful situation, and you feel that like, what do I do? Who do I be, right? When you feel that situation come up, you want to redirect it immediately and retrain your mind into a new condition using the tools you found and discovered in ceremony, because they are emotionally charged, just like the original trauma was. So we're creating sort of like a constructive PTSD situation, right? We're creating an emotional habit out of the situation. I got to come up with a new acronym for that, right? So
yes,
the idea is to recondition yourself constantly. And so eventually a discipline becomes a habit. A habit fades away and becomes a way of being. And you're just naturally like a stress-free, carefree, safe, happy person who also is in touch with their intuition and knows when they should leave a scenario because it's not actually safe. But safe situations no longer have to be stressful. You can be empowered and happy. This is a really simple, easy way of getting there. There's all kinds of cool, complex tools and tips out there. This is such like a small segment of what integration is capable of. But this is how you can create behavioral changes that cause mindset changes that are permanent over time. You want a permanent change in your character. And this is how you overcome that, holy shit, what do I do now? Like there's two parts of me now, and cause that change that you want moving forward. Does that make sense?
Of course, yes, definitely. You're so exciting. It's making me excited to
I
have
love
more
it. I love
tools.
it.
Yes, I'm actually writing some stuff down.
Awesome. Well, the good news is this video is being recorded because thanks to the Plant Path, we are on their channel. We're also live in my group, and we're also live on my YouTube channel, and that will also be there. So you guys will have access to this. And I want you to have access to this because these tools shouldn't be, you know, yes, it's best one-on-one, but they're for everyone. I love what the Plant Path is doing with education and with focus on integration. It changes everything. And like you said, Paula, our biggest question is, what do we do now, right? But these small tools can make a huge impact. And I would love to hear back from you how it goes when this situation comes up, how it goes for you to redirect your thoughts, empowered by the experience you had in ceremony.
And they come up probably 30 times a day where
Absolutely.
I have to remember not to go with the old pattern and go
Yes.
like take the right instead of the left, or that does.
Exactly.
I don't want that to sound too political because I'm left-handed, but like, you know, for me, the left was the bad path, the bad Paula thinking, the old fearful thinking, and then now it's just wait a minute, acknowledge it immediately,
Yes. And
and go
correct it.
this way,
Right.
and correct
It
it,
is so
correct it.
hard to stop something. It
Yeah.
is so hard, but it is easier to preserve the momentum that your mind is already traveling at warp speed, right? Preserve that momentum and just turn it down the lane that you want. So you don't need to stop how you're feeling, because then what? You know, that creates a more situation of anxiety and doesn't help. Exactly, you got it. If you can take what's happening and turn it in the direction you want it, then you retrain your thinking rather than freaking out yourself even more. Okay, this is not me anymore. How do I, what do I do? Okay, this is what I tell myself. This is how I get to feel. This is what I saw. I'm going to remember that right now. I'm going to take my deep breath. And eventually you don't have to do that anymore. It just sort of happens and you're just a happy, easy person. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being bold and vulnerable and sharing and being awesome and diving into your own inner work. That's already a terrifying experience. And you had an amazing one. And I'm so grateful that you shared it with us and with Plant Path. Thank you.
I'm grateful to both of you, Michelle. I adore you guys. Please keep adding this content. Kat, stay here, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'll see you guys next week, right, Michelle? Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you both doing this. Mark will be back with Kat next week for the third leg of this integration series. And, you know, maybe in about a month, the three of us could get back on and a follow up and see how you're, I mean, I talk to you every day, Paula, but a follow up and see how you're doing.
Yes.
I think that people really like to see what happens with integration, and especially somebody who's fresh off the medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would love it.
Okay.
Me too. Let's do it.
Thank you both so much. And we'll get back on here and do this again. And if you're looking for an integration coach, theplantmedicinepath.com. We've got lots of them on there. We can help you find what you're looking for. I thank you both for coming. And we will see you both again. And Kat will see you next week with Mark.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much for everything you guys do. I love your mission. I'm so grateful to be able to support that. Thank you, Miss Michelle. And I hope you guys enjoy a beautiful day.
Love you, sisters.
All right. You too. Love you guys. We'll talk soon.
Bye.